Not every rifle out there is worth putting in your safe, no matter how tempting the price tag or how much hype surrounds it. Some long guns are plagued by poor design, sketchy reliability, or frustrating maintenance quirks that turn them into liabilities instead of assets. In today's video, I'll be walking you through 6 rifles that serious shooters should probably avoid. Whether it's sloppy craftsmanship, bad materials, or outright safety concerns, these are firearms that fall short of their promises, and I'll break down exactly why. Before we get into the list, I just want to say thanks to everyone who's supported the channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so we can keep bringing you more real-world gun content from a shooter's perspective. Now, let's jump into it. Ruger Model 44 Deerstalker. On the surface, the Ruger Model 44 Deerstalker looks like a solid deal, especially if you spot one at a fair price. It's a semi-auto carbine introduced back in 1961, chambered in .44 Magnum. Lightweight, gas-driven, and compact, it checks all the boxes for a brush gun. It handles well and typically prints 3-inch groups at 100 yards, which is decent performance for a vintage semi-auto. But dig a little deeper, and the issues start stacking up fast. Right off the bat, Ruger ran into trouble with the name Deerstalker was already trademarked by Ithaca, which forced a name change. But the real headache was in the gas system. Shooting lead bullets fouls the gas port quickly, and unless you're cleaning it obsessively, it's going to jam. To make matters worse, this rifle won't reliably cycle anything except full-throttle jacketed .44 Magnum loads. That means your ammo options are limited, especially if you prefer soft-shooting rounds. The tubular magazine is another weak point. It tends to collect gunk over time, and since it's not fully user-serviceable, getting it clean is a chore. But the biggest flaw? The trigger group is housed in aluminum, and it's notorious for cracking with age. Once that goes, you're basically holding a parts gun. There's no simple fix. While some folks still experiment with these carbines, it's far from a go-to option if you want a reliable .44 Magnum setup. Unless you're ready for constant upkeep and some long-term disappointment, steer clear. Remington 700, pre-2014. The Remington 700 is one of the most well-known bolt-action rifles in the country, and for good reason. Introduced back in the early 1960s as an upgrade to Remington's older bolt gun lines, it's been chambered in just about every major caliber imaginable. It's a go-to for big game hunters and has served the military in sniper roles through platforms like the M24 and M40. The rifle's action is known for being strong, smooth, and accurate, perfect for precision work. But there's a major red flag. Any 700 made before the year 2014 could come with a defective trigger group. And I'm not talking about theory. This was a well-documented issue that caused unintentional discharges, even when the trigger wasn't pulled. In some cases, just flipping the safety off was enough to fire the gun. Lawsuits followed. So did serious injuries and even a few fatalities. Remington eventually launched a massive recall and offered to replace millions of triggers. Some defenders of the rifle say it only affected a small percentage, but when it comes to unintentional discharges, even rare isn't acceptable. If you already own a pre-2014 model or are thinking about buying one, look at the trigger housing. A small V mark indicates it was upgraded. If not, installing a proven aftermarket trigger like a Timney is a smart move. Remington never admitted the original trigger was defective, but the legal fallout contributed heavily to their financial decline. It's a shame because the rifle's core design is excellent, and the fact that it's been trusted by military and law enforcement snipers tells you how capable it is. If you've got one, just make sure the trigger is squared away. And if you're shopping used, assume you'll need to replace it unless there's clear documentation that the recall work was done. When it comes to a rifle with a history of firing without warning, don't take chances. Winchester Model 94, post-1964. The Winchester Model 94 is one of the most iconic lever-action rifles ever built. Introduced in the late 19th century, it became the ultimate deer rifle thanks to its fast action, lightweight, and ease of use. But not all Model 94s are created equal, and the ones made after the year 1964 come with a lot of baggage. To cut manufacturing costs, Winchester replaced the classic machined steel internals with stamped and powdered metal parts. Even the receiver metal was changed, which made it almost impossible to get that deep, glossy blue finish the older guns were known for. Some rifles even turned out with an odd purple tint. These shortcuts hurt not just the aesthetics but also long-term durability. Stamped parts were more prone to bending and failures, and the wood quality dropped noticeably. The pre-1964 models had rock-solid construction and old-school craftsmanship. In contrast, the later models felt cheaper and turned off a lot of longtime Winchester fans. To their credit, Winchester did improve things in the 1970s and 1980s by bringing back some machined parts and enhancing the finish. They also added the angle eject feature, which made it easier to mount optics. Still, those improvements didn't restore the original quality, and the older models remain far more desirable. If you're looking to pick up a Model 94, your best bet is to hunt down one built before 1964. If that's out of reach, at least inspect the newer rifle carefully before you commit. Some post-64 rifles are decent, but many of them lack the soul and the build quality that made the original a legend. That's why most collectors give them a pass. Century Arms C39 V2. If you're thinking about picking up an AK pattern rifle made in the United States, chances are someone will bring up the Century Arms C39 version 2. On paper, it might seem like a decent budget option, and some casual shooters will even vouch for it. But dig deeper, and you'll uncover serious concerns that put this rifle firmly in the avoid category. Unlike classic AK rifles that use forged steel for critical parts, the C39 V2 relies heavily on cast components, a manufacturing shortcut that dramatically reduces the gun's overall durability. Testing has shown that cracks can develop in the receiver around the locking lugs, sometimes after just a few thousand rounds. Once that cracking begins, it becomes a dangerous liability, which is the exact opposite of what you'd expect from a platform known for battlefield toughness. Then there's the inconsistent machining. Headspacing tends to drift with use, and some rifles have been known to fail no-go gauge checks well before you'd expect. That means you're flirting with the possibility of catastrophic failure. Add to that the subpar wood furniture, which loosens with time, and you've got a rifle that just doesn't hold up. Some units also show uneven wear due to mismatched metal parts, making long-term reliability even more questionable. An AK should be a rugged, go-anywhere tool. Sadly, the C39 V2 doesn't make the cut. If you want an American-friendly AK that actually performs, you're far better off looking at a Zastava or a Romanian import. Both offer real-world durability and proper craftsmanship. The C39 V2, meanwhile, is a gamble and not a smart one. Savage Model 340. Back in the day, the Savage Model 340 was designed to be a no-frills bolt gun for budget-conscious shooters. Selling for around $60 when it debuted, it stayed in production all the way through 1985. It gave a lot of folks their first taste of centerfire shooting, but it was always a bare minimum kind of rifle. The build quality reflects that. Most parts are stamped or riveted, the bluing is barely there, and early examples didn't even carry serial numbers because before 1968 they weren't legally required. A single barrel band holds the whole action in place, and the open-top receiver forces you into a side mount if you want to run a scope. The trigger is one of the biggest letdowns. Gritty, heavy, and nearly impossible to improve without major work. The detachable box magazine is made of thin alloy, and the feed lips are known to bend with even moderate use. The extractor also lacks strength and can struggle to yank out spent casings, which turns basic operation into a chore. Now, it's worth noting that the Model 340 has gained a bit of a following among niche collectors, especially in rare chamberings. A clean example can actually command several $100s, and some near-mint rifles fetch well over $1,000. If you're a vintage firearm enthusiast, it might make a fun restoration project. But if you're looking for a practical shooter, you'll get better performance, smoother handling, and more reliability from most modern entry-level bolt guns. Winchester Model 100. At first glance, the Winchester Model 100 looks like a steal, especially if you come across one for under $300. With its sleek, mid-century lines and semi-auto action, it definitely turns heads. But once you put rounds through it, the flaws become hard to ignore. Let's start with the trigger. It's heavy, unpredictable, and tough to clean up. Even skilled gunsmiths have trouble getting it to feel decent. Accuracy is hit or miss, too. The stock design doesn't lend itself well to consistent bedding, and finding ammunition that groups well is a bit of a lottery. Feeding issues are also common, with jams and misfeeds that make range time a headache. But here's the real deal-breaker: safety. In the year 1990, a full-blown recall was issued because the firing pin could get stuck in the forward position. If the bolt wasn't locked all the way forward, the rifle could discharge as it closed, creating a dangerous slam-fire scenario. Winchester halted production of the Model 100 in 1973, partly because of these issues and partly because it just wasn't performing up to expectations. Sure, some folks have managed to tune their Model 100 into something usable. But when there are so many other reliable semi-auto hunting rifles on the market, it begs the question, why bother? Unless you're deeply loyal to the Winchester brand or just want a retro wall hanger, this is a rifle better admired than fired. And that wraps up the list: 6 rifles you're better off skipping. Whether it's questionable engineering, substandard materials, or real-world safety hazards, each of these guns carries more risk than reward. Some of them might appeal to collectors or folks looking for a challenge, but if you value reliability and performance, there are much better options out there. Which one surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, share it with fellow gun owners, and subscribe for more straight shooting content. Tap that bell so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.